PBC meeting with if we could please start. The PBC Ambassadorial meeting with the 8th Advisory Group of the Secretary General's Peacebuilding Fund is called to order. Full interpretation will be provided for this meeting. The Chair has invited, at their request, the permanent representatives of Denmark, an important contributor to the PBF, a former member of the PBC, and now an elected member of the Security Council, and of El Salvador, the very effective chair of the 5th Committee, to participate in this meeting. I hear no objection. It is so decided. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. A special welcome to the President and all the members of the advisory group of the PBF. They are sitting right in front of us. On behalf of all PBC members, I wish to give a very warm welcome to the new members of the PBC for this year: Australia, Cambodia, Colombia, Morocco, the Netherlands, Pakistan, Panama, and Uganda. We all look forward to closely working with you to build a stronger PBC. A thankful farewell to the members that left the Commission at the end of 2024. Croatia, still holding a vice chair this month, Denmark, Ethiopia, Guyana, Italy, Nigeria, Peru, Qatar, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I thank them for their participation and commitment and for the contribution they made during their tenure. We have also invited all countries that have engaged with the PBF and/or the PBC to participate in this meeting. They are the following: Burkina Faso, Burundi, Central African Republic, the Gambia, Guatemala, Guinea-Bissau, Honduras, Liberia, Mauritania, Mozambique, Papua New Guinea, São Tomé and Príncipe, Sierra Leone, Somalia, South Sudan, Timor-Leste. I see no objection. It is so decided. Ambassador Makaria Kamau, Chair of the 8th Advisory Group of the PBF, Ambassador Abakar Mukhtar, Permanent Representative of Chad, Ms. Elizabeth Specher, Assistant Secretary General for Peacebuilding Support, esteemed members of the Peacebuilding Commission and of the PBF Advisory Group, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this ambassadorial level meeting of the Peacebuilding Commission with the 8th Advisory Group of the Secretary General's Peacebuilding Fund. I extend a special welcome to Ambassador Makaria Kamau of Kenya as the new chair of the advisory group and congratulate all its members on their appointment. Today marks only the second time that the full advisory group meets with the full membership of the PBC, a good practice initiated in November 2023. I commend the advisory group and the previous Croatian chairship of the PBC for that initiative. The success of that first meeting demonstrated the clear value of such exchanges. We all look forward to continuing this important tradition of dialogue between our bodies. This should become an institutional practice as we look forward to a reviewed peacebuilding architecture. As chair of the PBC, Brazil has witnessed firsthand the vital synergies between the Commission and the Fund, both integral parts of the UN's peacebuilding architecture. The PBC continues to enjoy close collaboration with the Peacebuilding Support Office as manager of the Secretary General's Fund, creating tangible impact in countries that seek our collective support. Strengthening the relationship between those three pillars of the UN peacebuilding architecture is vital in our way forward, a way that is more and more valued by many countries. In this sense, we should encourage countries that are on the PBF's agenda to come regularly to the PBC to present their experience with PBF-funded projects, show good results, talk about their challenges and perspectives, and also, why not, about their frustrations and setbacks. Indeed, when countries come to the PBC, It represents more than a request for assistance. It is a profound statement of their commitment to peace building and a sincere and steadfast call for support and cooperation, as well as a generous sharing of their experience. This past year alone, we have seen the power of this commitment. Many countries from 4 continents came to the PBC at a very high level. 2 presidents, 1 prime minister, several ministers, to discuss their strategies and share their experiences in different areas of peace building and conflict prevention. When São Tomé and Príncipe, for instance, approached the PBC seeking support, the Commission, the PBF, and the PBSO worked swiftly to react to their needs and start a meaningful relationship with that country in its conflict prevention strategy. I can also speak to the importance of this collaboration in my role as chair of the Guinea-Bissau configuration. Our work there can exemplify the strong partnership between the PBC and the Fund, where PBF support has been instrumental in addressing critical challenges, from combating corruption and trafficking to strengthening human rights and preventing conflict in the health sector, even if a lot more must be done. This transformative impact is also evident in Colombia, where the PBF's Nature for Peace initiative has been pioneering innovative approaches to peace building. With an investment fostering a new model of coffee production, the fund is helping prevent social environmental conflicts while supporting the reintegration of former combatants through sustainable agricultural practices. The project is but one example of how the PBF can effectively combine environmental stewardship with peace-building objectives, creating new pathways for sustaining peace. We also hope the next PBC chair will work intensely to showcase the successes of the PBF partnerships with countries on the PBC agenda and those countries' commitment to peace building and conflict prevention, so that IFIs and MDBs can also value them as prized assets for their own dealings with those countries. Excellencies, and I'm about to finish these introductory remarks, of course. The expansion of the advisory group to 12 members constitutes an important evolution, enhancing geographic representation and reflecting the group's growing role in advising on the use of assessed contributions to the fund. This expansion comes at a pivotal moment as we begin implementing the historic decision on assessed contributions to the PBF, an achievement that all of us in the Peacebuilding Commission are proud to support. We look forward to hearing the advisory group's perspectives on the funding allocation approved for this year's budget, and particularly their thoughts on the group's future role regarding assessed funding. As we navigate still uncharted sea together, our shared focus must remain on providing the best possible support to nationally led peace-building initiatives. Looking ahead, we anticipate even greater collaboration as countries develop their national prevention and peace-building strategies, aligned with the vision set forth in the Pact for the Future. Today's meeting, therefore, provides an invaluable opportunity to explore how we can further strengthen the synergies between our bodies and advance our shared mission of building and sustaining peace. We shall hear shortly from Ambassador Kamau of Kenya, followed by Ambassador Mukhtar of Chad, who will share insights from a recipient country's perspective, as well as by Assistant Secretary General Sperrer, who will brief us on recent developments. I now invite the chair of the advisory group of the PBF, Ambassador Macaria Kamau, to deliver his statement. Ambassador Kamau, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador and Chair of the PBC. It's a great honor for us to be back here. Some of us have been sitting where you are sitting, and it's wonderful to be back and to see that the PBC has become this crucially important commission that is so central to the work of the United Nations. So thank you very much, and thank you all members for being here to meet with us. As you've rightly pointed out, this is the second time that we are having this opportunity, and we think it provides incredible value for the way in which peace building is supported within the context of the United Nations work. And we have begun to see in real terms the results and the impact that this is having, not only here in New York, but out in the field, where much of the work of the PBF is actually done. I'd like also to acknowledge that indeed the advisory group has grown. It is now 12 members, and as you rightly point out, Ambassador, it is now much more representative of the regional diversity of the United Nations, and for that we are thankful. The PBF continues to do in very important ways all the work in which it was set up to do, which is to target the most complex, the most difficult areas of work that the UN is looking to reach out in the context of peace building and prevention. We are a body that is representative of the wishes primarily of the Secretary General, where the Secretary General sees the challenges that are unique and very special, that he himself sees in the context of his own travels and his own work. And when he comes back to New York and expresses certain sentiments as to which are the most important areas in which he thinks that we as a body should be responsive, the PBF tries to be as flexible, as responsive, and as transparent in its engagement as it possibly can. I'd like to thank the members of the PBC for the incredible good work that they did last year in helping us become better funded and better structured in order to be able to respond in this regard. As you yourself have rightly pointed out, we are now receiving upwards of $50 million in assessed contributions targeted at critical countries that that have been identified that need to get support from the system, but which for various reasons may not have been able to get that support in the manner in which they deserved in the past. Peace building, in many ways, remains one of those areas which has not received the full attention of the international community that we believe it deserves. In our conversations as members of the advisory group, we continue to bemoan the fact that in spite of the efforts of the PBC, in spite of the efforts of the PBF and other entities that are working in the area of peace building, we continue to see a deteriorating global situation where the number of crises and challenges that the international community is facing are on the increase, not on the decrease. And this really does put a lot of pressure and undermines in some critical ways the credibility of the international community in the eyes of the global public. And this is something that we are very concerned about, and we feel that we have to address as urgently and as sincerely as possible. We were hoping today to have a conversation with the PBC, as we've done before, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for inviting my predecessor to attend your retreat last year, because I think that brought on greater insights into our work that helped us to be able to target our work even better. This time round, we were hoping to have a conversation with you around the best ways in which we can strengthen the relationship between the PBF and the PBC, and particularly because we have a very clear sight of what is going to happen this year, and most importantly around the PBAR, the Peace Building Architectural Review process, that we think is going to have a lot of implications for the work of the international community in peace building in the next couple of years, if not over the next decade or so. We are also aware and very conscious of the fact that we've just come out of a very important process regarding the Pact for the Future. And again, there are some very critical outcomes in the Pact of the Future that we think are going to require closer collaboration between the PBF and the PBC. And we would love to have that conversation with you to get a sense of where you think our role can be more useful, not only in helping the PBC to have greater traction in its response to the Pact to the Future, but where we can make sure that the Pact has the right impact among the communities and the countries that we serve. I think we are also looking at, in that regard, how the PBF and the PBC can support countries with the development of the national prevention strategies, which are now coming on stream, and we have all recognized will give some sense of embedding of our work at country level moving forward. We have not had a framework. We have not had a national strategy that has been put in place, and therefore much of the work that we have done in an ad hoc fashion, as and when we were required to play our role with the various UN entities. And this remains problematic and is something that we think we need to think through as to how we shall frame our work for peace building in the various countries. It has also become very clear to us over the last couple of years, Ambassador, that the PBF, because of its role in the field, in countries, has become a critical part of the UN's leverage position vis-a-vis the work of international financial institutions, which are doing development work in the field, and where there needs to be a particular activity that is not funded by either the UN or the international financial organizations or the World Bank, but that needs to be done in order to enable the other larger institutions to engage. The PBF has been able to play a very constructive role. And this has now become something that we recognize needs to become a way of doing business for the PBF moving forward. And we would like, as much as possible, to see how the PBC, which of course does a lot of work with many developing countries, how the PBC can also ride on this engagement that we have with the IFIs moving forward. If we can continue to strengthen this relationship, particularly in as far as how we can embed our work in countries, particularly how we can leverage the role of United Nations organizations with whom we work and who we expect to be the main implementing agencies of our work in the field. If we can continue to do this, we think that the image of the United Nations, the image of the PBC, will be vastly enhanced, particularly in areas of prevention and peace building. So for today, Ambassador, our role here is merely to have these conversations, to seek reactions from the various members of the PBC with regard to what I've just spoken about. And before I conclude, I'd like to thank the various member states, particularly our partner member states, who have continued to be generous in their support to the PBF. The voluntary aspects of our funding have remained reasonably strong. There's no question that we would expect that to be strengthened moving forward. But what we would hope is that those member states who are here would recognize that we appreciate their support, and we continue to expect that they will remain with us in spite of the new assessment arrangements that have come into play. The new assessment arrangements hold great promise for us. We all recognize that there simply is not enough money. There is not enough funding behind the work of peace building. So for us to have this great breakthrough where we have sort of received the endorsement of the international community, of the member states, in our work, and how this has been signaled by the agreement which you supported to have an assessed contribution to the PBF, this has been very much appreciated, and we thank you very much and appreciate everything that you continue to do in this regard. Later on, with your concurrence, when we do open the floor, I hope we'll have one or two members of the advisory group. We have some very senior colleagues who have themselves been PRs here, who have themselves been very active and senior members of their own governments and their own civil societies who are here with us. And if you can give them the opportunity later, one or two of them. Now? Okay. So thank you very much, Ambassador. I'd like to start with just two of them, actually. Ambassador Mohammed Idris, I think I would like him to speak about issues around the PBAR and maybe some of the concerns that we have and would like to share with you. And then Jonas Alberoth, Ambassador Idris is from Egypt, I forgot to mention.
Just 3 minutes, please.
Yes. Ambassador Egypt is from Egypt, and Jonas Alberoth is from Sweden, and they'll each take a minute and a half.
No, 3 minutes.
3 minutes each? Well, we're very generous, very generous. Clearly, the chair is in a generous mood this afternoon. So we'll give you 3 minutes each, and then you can highlight some of the issues that we already discussed that we thought should be brought to the attention of the PBC this afternoon. So, Ambassador Idris, you first.
Thank you very much. Thank you, distinguished chair of the PBC, distinguished ASG, and distinguished brother chair of the advisory group for this meeting and for sharing valuable perspectives. Much appreciation to all members of the PBC. It is always great to be with peace builders. Just to share a few points. First, since the inception of in 2005 and operationalization in 2006, the track record of PBC, despite well-known sensitivities associated with the creation of this body, showed important developments, conceptual and operational, concerning the UN peace and security pillar. This requires a forward-looking approach with more political will and commitment, and if we live in the past, we forfeit the future. This synergy between the PBC and the PBF advisory group is a reflection of the organic link and the complementarity between the PBC and the PBF in the origin of both and in the work of both, and is worth enhancing and tapping in. This year is peculiar and more challenging in the midst of serious threats to peace and security in the world, on the heels of the Summit of the Future and prior to significant reviews to both the peace-building and the peacekeeping architecture. Also, there are upcoming important UN summits. The FFD Summit in mid-2025, the second World Social Development Summit in late 2025, which should address the special needs of conflict-affected countries, both in terms of the volume of financing and the effectiveness of investment in peace and social cohesion. All this necessitates more system-wide coordination to make the best out of it and turn it to added values, not missed opportunities. There is a need for a wide-angle view to the peace-building architecture in the UN and to have a forward-looking repositioning for the peace-building architecture as regarding to concept, financing, implementation, and impact, as well as the much-needed institutional enhancement, which importantly entails strengthening the PBSO. Previous recommendations were numerous, valuable in previous PBRs, but many were unfulfilled. Still, some issues we agree on its importance, but we don't have such a clarity of agreement on its content, implementation, and implications. The upcoming PBAR may be an opportunity to address this. Main priorities in our discussions as a group so far and for our planned work in the time ahead include, but not limited to, enhancing synergy with a robust PBC, PBAR of 2025, and congratulations to both distinguished ambassadors of Egypt and Slovenia for being entrusted with the important and easy mission of co-facilitating the 2025 PBAR. Financing is in a broad manner, how to leverage the present resources and further mobilization, including private sector and IFIs, especially taking care of the new baby, the assessment component, to ensure transparency, oversight, accountability, and effectiveness. Ahead of time, also, we are concerned by preparation for the new strategy for the PBF. Another point is, despite natural differences of views, member states proved that if there is a will, there is a way. The agreement on the assessed contribution, and before that, the consensual adoption of the financing for peace-building resolution came out of a recognition that there is an objective need and there is a valuable common interest. So came the pertinent move in the right direction. The role of the new 4 vice chairs will be very important, vice chairs of the PBC, as mentioned by one of our Jewish colleagues this morning, that of course it's expected that it will be valuable, substantive, of added value, and definitely more than replacing the chair in his absence. The last point, that indeed, together we can and we need to do more. Thank you very much.
Mr. Albert.
Thank you. We are meeting for the second time, and in my country, Sweden, this means that we have established a tradition. The term One UN is well known to all of us, and under this heading, we hope to be able to contribute also to one PBA, one peace-building architecture. In the agenda for our meeting today, we cautiously speak of synergies between the PBC and the PBF advisory group. And with today as a point of departure, we hope to make an inventory of common interests and issues and develop suitable forms for more regular consultations. It could be about information sharing, mutual support, more seamless transition processes, increased efficiency and impact, co-implementation of the Pact for the Future, including the aspiration to enhance the role of the PBC, where the PBF advisory group could contribute, alignment as appropriate of our long-term objectives, strategies, and priorities. And some of the issues that we have been able to talk about initially in the Peacebuilding Fund Advisory Group is about the importance to align the 2 important review processes that will take place this year, not only the PBAR, but also the review of all forms of future peace operations, as mandated by member states in the Pact for the Future. We are painfully aware of the fact that the important secretariat function to support all of us, the Peacebuilding Support Office, that there is a critical lack of resources, and this is from our independent perspective as advisor, and this is something we would like to explore and come up with suggestions also within the review processes and as advisors. The breakthrough when it comes to assessing also funding from the regular UN budget needs to be consolidated, and we need to deliver and also provide strong narratives on how we have made use of this important additional funding. There is a strong urge on behalf of member states to improve the quality of our reporting, even though fundamentally there is a solid basis for this, and a lot of exciting work is now happening within the PBSO that we hope to be able to explore together with them as advisors. One critical aspect has been raised within the Pact for the Future process, and that is the vulnerable global infrastructure for peace operations and peace building. This global infrastructure needs to be managed carefully and in a sustainable way. It only takes 1 or 2 budget cycles for member states to rethink how they invest their resources. And this is something to be mindful for. And I'm referring now to specialized institutions, deployment mechanisms, training centers for the broad spectrum of peace operations and peace building activities. And with that, I thank you for the opportunity to share a few initial remarks.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Sergio Danesi, those were the two critical interventions that I thought we would try and include. There was one subject that I think we spoke about extensively that I'd like also to put on the table, and that revolves around peace-positive investing, basically the issue of how can we seek funding and support for peace work in the world outside the traditional modalities, basically private sector, philanthropy, and so on and so forth. And we would like to hear as well from members of the PBC what their views are around this issue of what we have dubbed peace-positive investment, but basically meaning raising funds for peace activities and collaborative work on peace in the world. With that, Ambassador, I'd like to thank you very much once again and to thank all members of the PBC. I can see it's a full house today for being here. Thank you very much. We're most grateful.
I thank the chair of the advisory group of the PBF, Ambassador Kamau, and the two members who spoke for sharing their invaluable insights with us. As just three quick points to suggest for our thinking about the PBAR review, I think that, and we will be working on this, all countries on the PBF agenda should be encouraged to come to the PBC to present their experience. I think that this is very, very important, and this would make a difference for all of us. The second point is that IFIs and MDBs should be regularly and formally informed about the work done in partnership among countries, the PBF and the PBC. I think it's important that we give it a more formal status. And finally, IFIs and MDBs should be encouraged to build on successful pilot programs that are financed by the PBF. I think those programs can be like seed programs for enhanced cooperation between the countries and the IFIs and MDBs. So these are just a few comments that I would like to make right now. I now invite Ambassador Abakar Mukhtar, the permanent representative of Chad, a PBF recipient country, to deliver his statement. Ambassador Mukhtar, you have the floor. Vous avez la parole.
Merci. Excellence, Monsieur Sergio Danesi, président de la Commission de la consolidation de la paix, Monsieur le Président du groupe consultatif, Madame l'ASG Speha, Mesdames, Messieurs les membres de la Commission, distingués participants, je voudrais avant tout propos adresser nos sincères remerciements à la Commission de la consolidation de la paix de l'initiative d'organiser la présente réunion et de l'invitation à mon pays d'y participer afin de partager quelques vues sur sa coopération avec les Nations Unies dans le domaine de la consolidation de la paix. Je tiens également à saisir cette occasion pour exprimer la gratitude du gouvernement tchadien à tous les partenaires, et en particulier les Nations Unies, pour le soutien constant et multiforme qu'ils ne cessent de fournir au Tchad. Nos remerciements vont tout particulièrement au Fonds pour la consolidation de la paix, pour ses appuis précieux depuis 2017 à travers le financement de plusieurs projets qui sont d'un grand apport pour la consolidation de la paix au Tchad. L'engagement avec la PBC est d'une grande importance pour mon pays, qui vient de sortir d'une transition politique avec l'élection du président de la République, le maréchal Mohamed Idriss Déby, en mai 2024, et l'organisation des élections législatives provinciales et communales il y a quelques jours, le 29 décembre dernier. Le Tchad, faut-il le souligner, est un pays ayant connu une histoire politique mouvementée et qui vit dans un environnement sous-régional caractérisé par la prévalence des crises, conflits et guerres, ce qui rend mon pays constamment exposé au risque de conflits ou de leurs impacts. La guerre qui fait rage en ce moment au Soudan a par exemple entraîné une exacerbation de la crise humanitaire que vit le Tchad, qui accueille des réfugiés soudanais depuis 2003. Depuis l'éclatement de la guerre en cours, le 15 avril 2023, ce sont au total près de 2 millions de réfugiés qui sont accueillis au Tchad. Les répercussions des conflits et guerres dans le voisinage sont énormes sur le plan humanitaire, socio-économique, environnemental et sécuritaire, impactant de manière considérable les populations des régions hautes et exerçant une forte pression sur les ressources limitées du gouvernement. À cela s'ajoutent les attaques terroristes de Boko Haram à l'ouest du pays qui continuent malheureusement d'endeuiller notre pays. Et comme vous le savez, cette nébuleuse terroriste a attaqué le 27 octobre 2024 les soldats tchadiens dans la province du lac Tchad, entraînant la mort d'une quarantaine d'entre eux. Le gouvernement a lancé en réponse une opération militaire qui a permis de neutraliser un grand nombre de terroristes et de détruire d'importants moyens logistiques des terroristes. À cela, il faut ajouter l'attaque par un groupe d'individus le 8 janvier dernier contre la présidence de la République dans le but de déstabiliser les institutions de la République, qui a été vite enrayé par les forces de défense et de sécurité. Donc, ces tableaux illustrent la complexité des défis auxquels le Tchad est confronté. Le Tchad qui est un îlot de paix et de stabilité dans une sous-région en pleine turbulence. Contre vents et marées, le Tchad est parvenu à maintenir sa stabilité et la paix et est aujourd'hui un pilier contribuant à la stabilité, la paix et la sécurité de toute la région. Donc, ces efforts ont besoin d'être aidés afin de sauvegarder la paix et la stabilité pour le bien des populations tchadiennes et celles de toute la région. Le Tchad compte donc sur l'ensemble de la communauté internationale pour appuyer ces efforts de consolidation de la paix et au-delà pour la mise en œuvre de ces objectifs de développement articulés autour de 12 chantiers et 100 actions, programmes politiques sur lesquels le président de la République a été élu et dont le gouvernement s'attelle à sa mise en œuvre. À présent, permettez-moi de partager avec vous brièvement quelques éléments sur l'expérience du Tchad dans la mise en œuvre de ses priorités nationales en matière de consolidation de la paix avec le soutien du Fonds pour la consolidation de la paix depuis 2017, date de déclaration de l'éligibilité du Tchad au fonds. En effet, depuis 2017, le gouvernement tchadien travaille en étroite collaboration avec le secrétariat des Nations Unies et l'équipe pays des Nations Unies dans l'identification des objectifs prioritaires de consolidation de la paix que le fonds pourrait aider à atteindre. Cette collaboration a permis d'élaborer et de mettre en œuvre un programme de consolidation de la paix comprenant plusieurs projets exécutés ou en cours de l'être dans presque toutes les 23 provinces du pays. Cet ambitieux programme a, à ce jour, attiré des investissements du fonds d'une valeur totale de 57,8 millions de dollars pour lesquels le Tchad exprime sa gratitude au secrétariat des Nations Unies et aux donateurs du fonds. Ces investissements soutiennent directement les priorités du gouvernement en matière de consolidation de la paix, notamment la prévention de l'extrémisme violent, l'autonomisation des femmes et des jeunes en tant qu'agents de la consolidation de la paix et du développement, la prévention et la gestion des conflits intercommunautaires, y compris le conflit entre agriculteurs et éleveurs, la gestion équitable des ressources naturelles face au changement climatique, la protection et promotion des droits de l'homme, la promotion de l'égalité et de l'équité des genres au Tchad, le renforcement de la réconciliation et de la cohésion sociale, pour ne citer que ces exemples. Le programme de consolidation de la paix, financé par le Fonds, a permis d'obtenir des résultats significatifs. À titre d'exemple, durant la transition politique entre 2021 et 2024, le Tchad a reçu un soutien précieux et constant du Fonds et de la Commission de la consolidation de la paix. La PBC a notamment organisé une réunion le 2 décembre 2021 consacrée à la transition politique au Tchad, qui a permis au gouvernement de présenter la feuille de route de transition ainsi que de mobiliser le soutien de la communauté internationale. Et durant les étapes critiques de la transition, le Fonds a alloué des ressources de fonds catalyseurs qui ont permis, par exemple, la préparation et la tenue du dialogue national inclusif et souverain en 2022 en favorisant l'inclusion des femmes, des jeunes et des personnes en situation de handicap, la mise en place d'une commission nationale de désarmement, démobilisation et réintégration conformément aux dispositions de l'accord de paix de Doha de 2022. Cette initiative contribue au renforcement de la paix au Tchad. Tous les partenaires sont donc invités à soutenir le futur programme DDR. Il existe de nombreux autres exemples concrets de l'impact du fonds au Tchad, dont le soutien a touché presque toutes les provinces sur des questions liées à la cohésion sociale et à la réconciliation nationale, à la gestion des ressources naturelles, à l'égalité des sexes, à l'autonomisation des femmes et des jeunes. Ces exemples illustrent bien la pertinence et l'efficacité de l'appui du Fonds à la paix au Tchad pour relever certains défis difficiles en matière de consolidation de la paix. Le Tchad se réjouit de continuer à travailler avec le Fonds ainsi qu'avec nos autres partenaires afin de continuer sur la base de ces succès. La visite effectuée au Tchad par Mme Elisabeth Spehar avec des partenaires du 21 au 25 octobre 2024 et axée sur l'appui du Fonds dans le contexte de la transition politique a permis aux représentants des donateurs de constater l'impact de ces programmes et de mieux comprendre les défis restants en matière de consolidation de la paix et les défis contextuels. Dans ce contexte, la demande du Tchad de renouvellement de son éligibilité au fonds a été approuvée le 10 janvier 2025 par le secrétaire général pour les 5 prochaines années, assurant ainsi que des ressources adéquates pourront être allouées aux priorités du Tchad en matière de consolidation de la paix dans cette période post-transition. Sur la base de la demande de rééligibilité, au cours des 5 prochaines années, le Fonds pourra ainsi soutenir les efforts nationaux dans les domaines de la promotion de la justice, de la lutte contre la corruption et de l'état de droit, y compris la promotion des droits de l'homme et la gestion de conflits liés aux ressources naturelles exacerbés par les effets du changement climatique et le développement des mécanismes de gestion des frontières et de contrôle de la circulation et de l'utilisation illégale des armes au sein de la population. Il y a également le domaine du renforcement de la cohésion sociale à travers des mécanismes locaux et étatiques de prévention et de gestion des conflits et la promotion de la résilience socio-économique des communautés les plus vulnérables. Et enfin, l'appui au cadre institutionnel et partenariats locaux pour la promotion des femmes et des jeunes dans le cadre des programmes Femmes, Paix et Sécurité, Jeunesse, Paix et Sécurité, Climat, Paix et Sécurité. Pour finir, je voudrais adresser la gratitude du gouvernement tchadien au secrétaire général pour l'approbation du renouvellement de l'éligibilité du Tchad au fonds pour une nouvelle période de 5 ans, assurer les partenaires que le Tchad ne ménagera aucun effort en vue de la mise en œuvre adéquate de tous les projets présents et futurs pour le grand bénéfice des populations concernées. Enfin, je voudrais en appeler aux partenaires et à tous les États membres en vue d'assurer au fonds un financement continu et prévisible afin de consolider davantage la dynamique des partenariats multilatéraux de consolidation de la paix. Je vous remercie.
I thank the permanent representative of Chad, Ambassador Abakar Mukhtar, for his informative remarks. And now I invite the Assistant Secretary General for Peacebuilding Support, Ms. Elisabeth Speher, to make her presentation. Elisabeth, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, first of all, for organizing this very important meeting and for giving me the floor. I also would like to thank Ambassador Kamau in front of the entire PBC for having agreed to be the chair of the 8th Independent SG's advisory group to the Peacebuilding Fund, and my thanks also extensive to all 12 members. We're delighted to have such an experienced group and talented group of individuals coming from a wide range of countries to support us with this very important work. Mr. Chair, I wanted to maybe just make two sets of remarks. One is with respect to what we just heard from the distinguished representative of Chad to the United Nations in terms of the work that has been done with his country to help Chad build and sustain peace, and then a few remarks on PBC, PBF. First of all, in terms of Chad, as the distinguished ambassador mentioned, the Peacebuilding Fund has been supporting Chad with its peacebuilding journey since 2017, but he also quite rightly mentioned the role of the Peacebuilding Commission several years ago as being a critical place and platform where the government brought their roadmap for the political transition. And this, I think, was, as he well said, it was a very important development as well in terms of the relationship between the UN and Chad in terms of peacebuilding. The ambassador also mentioned the visit last October that I had the privilege to lead with a number of partners to Chad so that we could see firsthand what the support of the Peacebuilding Fund has managed to help the country achieve over the last several years. And I have to say we had excellent access to all of the key interlocutors in the country, not least the head of state and other key governmental figures, as well as civil society and the international community. There, I would say that we had the chance to very much understand, at least better than we had before arriving in Chad, the numerous challenges that the country still faces, the fragilities that are still there, but also the progress that has been achieved on several fronts. And the ambassador did mention the very important national inclusive and sovereign dialogue that the PBF, among others, were very proud to support. As the ambassador also mentioned, we were very pleased that the request for re-eligibility of Chad to the peacebuilding and recovery facility of the Peacebuilding Fund was accepted and agreed by the Secretary General. So we have another 5-year window to provide important support to Chad in this very important period in its history of consolidating the political transition. And I do hope that the country would consider coming back to the PBC regularly to report on its progress. One of the areas that we heard about when we were in Chad was the establishment of the Office of the Mediator of the Republic. And one of the main tasks of that office is to ratify or finalize a national social cohesion strategy, which to me sounds a lot like a very interesting type of prevention or peacebuilding strategy. And it's not up to me to invite Chad to come here to talk about it because I am not the chair of the PBC, but simply to suggest that would this not be an interesting next development between PBC and Chad, perhaps to have them come and share their strategy once it is completed to see how this very august body, the Peacebuilding Commission, can support them. Mm-hmm.
If I may just say a word, we have already started conversations with the permanent mission of Chad in New York to have this meeting shortly. Unfortunately, it was not possible for us to chair that meeting. I trust that Germany, as the next chair of PBC, will very soon chair a very useful meeting on Chad and its relationship with the PBC and the PBF.
Excellent. And then just very quickly on the meeting of today, as our advisory group member, newly minted advisory group member, Mr. Jonas Albaroth, quite rightly said, today you are establishing a very important tradition, started last year, of a meeting between the full PBC and the full advisory group of the Secretary General for the Peacebuilding Fund. I can tell you that in the discussions this morning with the whole advisory group, there was a lot of excitement about coming here and speaking with all of you, sharing some ideas, and this is just, they're in their first hours of their joint work together, but they very much want to hear from you as well. And we see this as a critical relationship. So I think something that several people have mentioned, the synergies between the PBF and the PBC are something that need to be further explored. And we're very interested to see where that goes. And it's also extremely important because it is also linked to assessed contributions and to the revised terms of reference of the Secretary General for the PBF. As you recall, in terms of the revised TORs for the PBF, there is a role that is carved out there for the advisory group to guide us with respect to assessed contributions and also to engage with the PBC in that space. So I'm sure that this will be a very important topic of future discussion as we go forward. I want to also very much thank, as did the chair of the advisory group, all of your countries, yourselves, for that very landmark decision of agreeing for assessed contributions to the PBF, which you have our assurance will be treated with great transparency, accountability, and careful stewardship. So with that, I would like to end so that we can quite forthwith get to your comments and questions. Thank you.
I thank ASG Sperrer for her insightful briefing, and I will now open the floor to member states. But before I open the floor, I wish to remind you that, as per usual practice, I will give the floor to interested participants following their order of registration from this moment and organized by protocol. I will give the floor first to PRs, followed by DPRs, and then experts. As we will have to finish our work at 6 p.m. sharp, and to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to speak, I kindly ask speakers to be brief and try to not exceed 3 minutes. The microphone light will start flashing when there will be 1 minute left for the speaker to conclude his or her statement. I now invite member state representatives to take the floor and share their remarks. Please press the microphone button in front of you to add your delegation to the list of speakers that we have just opened. We'll start with Japan first. But Canada would speak as president of the... And I'll give the floor to the permanent representative of Japan. Japan, you have the floor. Pardon me, followed by Canada.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for convening this meeting as an opportunity to discuss with 8th PBF Advisory Group. This meeting is timely ahead of 2025 Peacebuilding Architecture Review, PBAR, to explore how PBF can support sustaining peace. I'm pleased to announce that Japan has decided to apportion an additional $3.86 million to PBF on top of the more than $67 million Japan has contributed since the PBF's establishment in 2006. One of the reasons why we continue voluntary funding is because we recognize PBF's unique agility, flexibility, and catalytic characters to involve various entities. These are crucial to comprehensive and timely support to address context-specific root causes and to establish resilience. Taking this opportunity, allow me to make 3 suggestions on how PBF and the PBC can work collaboratively to create synergy and enhance the impact of their efforts while respecting national ownership. These suggestions are in line with the latest report of the Secretary General on peace building and sustaining peace, submitted last year. In this regard, we appreciate the inclusion in the report of the inputs we submitted. First, creating a clear incentive for member states to utilize both PBC and PBF. For example, when a country calls for a PBC meeting to present national peace building and prevention priorities, strategies, challenges, and necessary support ahead of its application to the PBF, its application should be favorably considered during the selection process for PBF projects. Such a system will encourage national ownership, embody the country's political will and initiative, and provide for concrete follow-up to PBC meetings. From donors' perspective, a clear list of the country's plans and needed support should be useful to elaborate consideration of funding. Second, Building an institutional knowledge hub where all related to entities can easily access both recommendations raised by the PBC meetings and lessons learned from PBF projects as part of the whole PBA. It can be an online database or one-touch web page dedicated to topics, either thematic like prevention or country-specifics, possibly within the Impact Hub. Such knowledge can be utilized for developing further PBF projects worldwide, as well as drafting PBC advice requested by Security Council and other UN entities. Third, promoting collaboration with international financial institutions. I believe this is possible both through aligning the vision of the UN and the IFIs at the PBC meeting, as well as through project-based collaboration on the ground, including with the PBF. The aligned vision and complementary strategy will serve as a foundation for developing collaborative projects. By leveraging the PBC's bridging role and the PBF's catalytic role, we can promote complementarity with IFIs to enhance collective contribution to preventing conflicts and sustaining peace building in its fragile settings. Japan has submitted the recommendations for the PBAR in the form of a summary of informal consultation we organized on strengthening the relationship between the Security Council and the PBC. As we move toward PBAR this year, any action-oriented requests and recommendations are welcome, including by the advisory group, to maximize the effect of the PBF and achieve better coherence between PBF and the PBC. Japan remains committed to contributing to update the mandates and structure of PBA. I thank you.
I thank the permanent representative of Japan for his statement. I now give the floor to the permanent representative of Canada and president of the ECOSOC. Ambassador Bob Ray, you have the floor.
And to have an opportunity to speak. I'm particularly pleased to be able to join members of the advisory group who are here today. The fact that I recognize some of them from being former colleagues here is something that gives me great pleasure in meeting them, but also as somebody who's about to complete his 5th year as PR, it gives me great hope. So I'm really delighted to see you all. I think your job is important, and I think this kind of dialogue that we're having to address these critical questions is really important. I think the Secretary General's report and his speech today made very clear that there are some positive signs. I mean, we appear to have a ceasefire agreement in Gaza, which I think we all recognize as a critically important event. But I also think it's important for us to understand how these conflicts happen and what we can do to prevent them and what we can do to increase the capacity of member states to be able to create the conditions which will allow for greater peace. I'm also speaking to you in my role as chair of the ad hoc advisory group on Haiti, which is advisory to ECOSOC, and I'm president of ECOSOC, so I have many hats on today. Given the weather, I need to wear them all. I applaud the decision to allocate $10 million to Haiti from the assessed contributions, and I would only say, as we often do in this business, thank you very much for this. It's extremely important that we make progress in Haiti. It is a country which is suffering tremendously from internal conflict that is fed by outside forces, sources of organized crime, that have caused enormous hardship to the population. But I would urge you, without for a moment wanting to interfere with your discretion, but to urge you to think carefully about making another allocation in 2026, because once these things get started, it's important for us to be able to continue and to deepen. Also to say that as ECOSOC president, I've discussed with ASG Spahar about how we could make Haiti the focus of an annual PBC ECOSOC meeting later this year, and I hope we can still do that. And I look forward to discussing that possibility with the new a newly elected chair of the Peace Building Commission coming up. Haiti is a classic example of a crisis that can actually be resolved, but we have not yet found the political will either inside the country or from outside the country to provide the country with the means to resolve the terrible conflicts which have taken place. Sometimes it's described as a country where we've put too much money in and we've not gotten enough out. My own view is quite different. The money that we have put in has been going to assist the humanitarian needs of the poorest people in the Americas. And we need to find ways to allow that country to generate the economic, political, cultural, social fabric that will allow it to become truly self-sustaining and indeed prosperous. There was a time when Haiti was a relatively prosperous country, and that, unfortunately, that has not taking place today. Mr. Chair, just briefly to say I'm a big fan of the Peace Building Commission, and the first job I had when I came here was to be thrown in as the chair of the commission for 6 months, and I truly valued that experience, even though it was all virtual, none of it in person, but it's nice to see people in person. I think the Peace Building Fund is an invaluable catalyst. I think the work of the Advisory Commission is critically important, and having it so closely connected now to the member states and to our willingness and ability to engage with each other, I think is a very positive development. So I'll close with those remarks and thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to join my colleagues today and look forward to a positive discussion. Thank you very much.
I thank the permanent representative of Canada and president of ECOSOC for his statement. I now give the floor to the permanent representative of Australia, a new member this year, followed by South Africa. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, of course, for convening today's meeting, and thank you for your welcome. Let me also acknowledge our presenters, of course, very useful information today, and of course welcome and express appreciation to the members of the advisory group who are here with us. Again, I share the view that you are an invaluable contributor to our work here. Australia, of course, is extremely pleased to join the UN Peacebuilding Commission this year, and we look forward to working with all of you in promoting our collective efforts to build and sustain peace. We welcome the opportunity to engage with the advisory group as well. I want to make 3 key points. First, we need to strengthen the relationship between the Peace Building Fund and the Peace Building Commission. We look forward to the inaugural PBF-PBC interactive dialogue later this year. This will be an important platform for PBC members and peace building actors to provide input into the strategic direction of the fund. The PBC should also make greater use of its platform to spotlight the work of the PBF. Sharing lessons learned from the field would add additional perspective to the PBC's work, including its advice to the Security Council, and encourage greater engagement by international and regional financial institutions. Secondly, as we all know, it's an ongoing challenge to ensure adequate, predictable and sustained financing for peace building. We very much welcome the use of assessed contributions by the PBF commencing this year and hope to see this increased to the Secretary-General's recommendation of $100 million over time. As voluntary contributions remain the primary source of funding, we also recognise the need to broaden and diversify the financing base for peace building. We hope the PBC can lend greater support to this goal. For its part, Australia is committed to continuing our practice of multi-year funding agreements to the PBF, and we encourage other donors to do the same. Finally, we welcome a focus in the PBF's extended 2026 strategy on supporting countries interested in pursuing national prevention strategies. The PBC provides a complementary platform where member states can signal their interest in developing a national prevention strategy in partnership with the Peace Building Fund. Australia is collaborating with the New York University Centre for International Cooperation to develop guidelines for national prevention plans. We're keen to work closely with the PBF, PBC and all interested member states on this important project. Colleagues, we all know the PBF is a valuable tool for peace building with its unique ability to make quick decisions, flexibly support governments and local communities, convene across the full UN system and help fill a gap between conflict and broader development assistance. That's why Australia has increased our annual voluntary contribution to around $10 million per year in 2025. And we urge other donors to support this critical tool. Thank you.
I thank the permanent representative of Australia for his remarks. I now give the floor to South Africa, to the permanent representative of South Africa, followed by the permanent representative of the Netherlands. South Africa, you have the floor.
Chairperson, thank you for organizing this meeting of the Peacebuilding Commission with the 8th Advisory Group of the PBF. We would like to commend the contribution of the 7th Advisory Group to the work of the Peacebuilding Fund in the past 2 years, including the important milestone of securing financing for the PBF from the UN-assessed contribution. I believe the new advisory group, as its predecessor, will render excellent advice to the Secretary General during the course of its term. We are pleased to note the expansion of the advisory group to ensure that it is not only gender balanced, but comprises members from a diverse set of countries and regions with the requisite expertise to provide guidance to the effective utilization of the PBF. We therefore welcome all members of the 8th Advisory Group, and please allow me to recognize South Africa's former PR to the UN, Ambassador Baso Sango. Although this advisory group has representation from all regions, we trust that equitable geographic representation will prove to be an advantage and a basis for stronger consideration for future advisory groups. Excellencies, the objective of peace building and sustaining peace is at the heart of the creation of UN. It ensures that the dividends of negotiated settlements are used to transform theaters of war into peaceful and prosperous society. However, peace building only becomes relevant when it is complemented by sustainable and predictable funding. It is therefore important that the PBF continues to deliver on its mandate in supporting countries in post-conflict situations by preventing their relapse into conflict and accompanying the effective transition from peace-building support to sustainable development. The advisory group, therefore, is a critical cog in ensuring these overarching objectives. We wish to proffer the following 4 areas for attention and for consideration by the 8th Advisory Group. Firstly, the advisory group should work closely with the Peacebuilding Support Office, the PBSO, to ensure that it is privy to the outcomes of the 2025 Peacebuilding Architecture Review. This will assist the group to render its advice not only on the implementation of the current Peacebuilding Fund strategy, but also on recommendations emerging from the review process. In our view, the review provides an opportunity to reflect on peace building as it relates to the evolving nature of conflicts. Even the 7th Advisory Group observed in its handover report the importance of elaborating the meaning of peace building in practice in this evolving global peace and security complex. Second, the term of this new advisory group coincides with the operationalization of the peace-building account that has been endowed with USD 50 million from UN-assessed contribution since 1st January 2025. It is vital for the group, therefore, to monitor closely the envisaged catalytic effect and impact of this new funding mechanism in countries and regions that have been allocated resources from the Peacebuilding and Recovery Facility. We underline the importance of a bottom-up and national and all regional ownership of priorities. It is also important for the group to prioritize projects that will lead to the sustainable development of recipient countries. Third, the fact is that the demand for peace-building financing exceeds available resources. This, therefore, compels the UN to consider multiple sources of financing for peace-building beyond voluntary and UN-assessed contribution. It is in this context that South Africa has spearheaded the process of exploring the role of the private sector in financing peace-building activities, including making contributions to the PBF. And Chair, you asked about peace-positive investments. In 2021 and 2022, South Africa conducted workshops together with the PBSO to introduce the concept of peace-positive private sector development. And we are pleased that this has now made traction and there is increasing willingness to explore this. The General Assembly resolutions on investing in prevention and peace building allude to the need for such a broader approach in mobilizing resources for financing of peace building activities. And we are pleased that some of the members of the advisory group have private sector experience, which will be critical for garnering the much needed resources from the business community. Fourth, and lastly, the constructive collaboration between the PBC and advisory group could be increased by holding these types of meetings in future with a lens on specific countries, cross-border projects, or thematic areas that have been discussed in previous advisory group meetings. In essence, the advisory group could provide feedback on some of the recent advice provided to the PBF. These meetings should also include the country or countries from the sub-region under discussion. This participation could also come from the joint steering committees at the country level for the PBC to have a better understanding of how these committees function. To conclude, Chair, we wish the new advisory group well for its term as we continue to improve and increase the role of the UN peacebuilding in countries where its intervention is most needed. We look forward to the Commission, the PBF, annual informative and interactive strategic dialogue, which will come later in the year. I thank you.
I thank the permanent representative of South Africa for her remarks. I now give the floor to the permanent representative of the Netherlands, followed by the permanent representative of Morocco. Netherlands, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And thank you for organizing this important exchange. And I would like to start by congratulating the new PBF advisory group members, and particularly I'm looking at Joka Brandt, who's my predecessor and inspiration, and so happy to see you at the other side of the table. The Kingdom of the Netherlands has been a proud top donor to the PBF, and we see support to conflict prevention and sustaining peace as the essence of our commitment to the UN. We have been strong advocates for assessed contributions to the PBF to make it more sustainable, previsible, predictable. And so we are very happy that the General Assembly actually approved the assessed contributions. But at the same time, we also note that we will also keep a strong, we will rely strongly on voluntary contributions as well. Their contribution will remain critical. The fund has been set up to flexibly respond to context-specific peace building and prevention needs based on changing contexts. And it has also operated effectively and transparently, and it is our responsibility to preserve the unique nature, flexibility, and autonomy of the PBF. We also encourage strengthening the synergy between the PBF and PBC, like many others mentioned before us, to advance the case for peace building based on evidence, learn from real experiences, and PBF impact on the ground. And PBF can help leverage PBC and other PB efforts, and in turn it can strengthen PBC's ability to use evidence from the field. Evidence-based peace building can also strengthen our prevention efforts, including through national prevention strategies. And over the years, the fund has contributed to enhancing collaboration between UN agencies' promotion initiative.
We would like to encourage the fund to continue and, where possible, intensify these efforts to ensure peace building and prevention efforts are rooted in local realities and guided by locally designed and led solutions. This would enhance the legitimacy, support, and contribution to peace building within communities and allow for more sustainable results. This and other questions will need to be addressed this year as a part of the UN Peacebuilding Architecture Review and as follow-up to the Summit of the Future. And we will remain committed to continue to the UN peacebuilding efforts. Thank you.
I thank the permanent representative of the Netherlands for her statement. I now give the floor to the permanent representative of Morocco and chair of the Central African Republic configuration of the PBC, followed by the permanent representative of Bangladesh. Morocco, you have the floor.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais tout d'abord vous dire combien je suis très heureux cet après-midi. Tout d'abord pour la tenue de cette réunion, je vous en remercie, mais également pour le plaisir de retrouver d'anciens collègues, je dirais d'anciens partenaires, d'anciens collègues et également d'anciens combattants pour la paix. Je les considère des ambassadeurs qui sont en face de nous et beaucoup d'entre eux, j'ai eu le plaisir, le privilège de travailler avec eux et surtout avec mon frère Kamalou. Là, je voudrais leur dire, nous sommes très heureux de leur nomination et qu'ils peuvent compter sur leurs collègues qui sont restés à New York pour les accompagner et les aider dans leur mission. Je voudrais exprimer également ma profonde gratitude à Mme Elisabeth Sper, ce secrétaire général chargé du Bureau d'appui à la consolidation de la paix, au président du groupe consultatif, mon frère Macharia Kamau du Kenya, ainsi qu'à l'ensemble des briefers pour leurs remarques éclairées et exhaustives. Monsieur le Président, le Maroc se félicite de la nomination par le secrétaire général de l'ONU le 26 novembre 2024 de 12 membres distingués du 8e groupe consultatif du Fonds pour la consolidation de la paix sous le leadership avisé de l'ambassadeur Kamau. Nous sommes convaincus que le groupe consultatif sera en mesure d'apporter une contribution significative aux efforts mondiaux de consolidation de la paix. Comme l'a souligné le secrétaire général de l'ONU, la nomination du 8e groupe consultatif intervient à un moment critique de l'histoire, marqué par la multiplication des conflits, la persistance des souffrances humaines et des menaces existentielles, ce qui impose l'impératif d'un multilatéralisme robuste et renforcé et une PBC plus ouverte sur son environnement afin de réaliser nos objectifs communs, bâtir des sociétés résilientes et assurer un avenir meilleur dans la paix et la coexistence. Monsieur le Président, garantir la constance des efforts de consolidation de la paix impose une action concertée et ambitieuse du groupe consultatif qui doit placer les personnes vulnérables, y compris les femmes, les filles et les jeunes, au centre des efforts de consolidation de la paix. En outre, l'innovation et la flexibilité seront primordiales pour conforter leurs efforts. Parallèlement, et afin de répondre aux attentes tant du secrétaire général que des membres de la PBC et des configurations, le groupe consultatif est invité à se pencher sur, je vais citer, 5 points. Tout d'abord, 1, la promotion de l'appropriation nationale, en encourageant des partenariats solides entre les États membres, la société civile et le secteur privé. Cela permettra de répondre à la fois aux besoins immédiats de consolidation de la paix, tout en posant concomitamment les bases de développement et de stabilité à long terme. 2, le renforcement de la collaboration entre la PBC, le PBF et le Conseil de sécurité, afin de soutenir efficacement le cadre de consolidation de la paix des Nations Unies. 3, la tenue d'une communication régulière et ciblée à travers des briefings et des plateformes de partage de connaissances afin de faciliter l'échange et la mise à jour des leçons apprises. 4, le financement d'initiatives visant à s'attaquer aux causes profondes des conflits, à promouvoir l'inclusivité et à renforcer la bonne gouvernance, la justice transitionnelle et la promotion de la protection des droits de l'homme, et ce en perspective de l'examen de l'architecture de consolidation de la paix en 2025. Enfin, 5, et là je rejoins mon collègue l'ambassadeur du Japon, l'encouragement aux pays en crise ou en guerre civile à recourir à la PBC afin d'exposer leur situation et exprimer leurs besoins en termes d'assistance ou d'appui technique. La PBC devrait être un espace de dialogue, de coopération, d'assistance et d'accompagnement et non pas de reddition de comptes. Enfin, le dernier mot, c'est juste pour assurer, renouveler plutôt notre appui au nouveau groupe du fonds et leur assurer de l'appui, la mobilisation du Maroc derrière eux. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
I thank the permanent representative of Morocco and President Chair of the Central African Republic configuration of the PBC. I will now give the floor to the new permanent representative of Bangladesh. Welcome, sir. Followed by the permanent representative of Sweden. Bangladesh, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. Today is my first meeting of the Peace Building Commission, and I wish you a happy and productive year of engagement in this commission. From Bangladesh, Mr. Chair, we welcome the members of the 8th Advisory Group of the Secretary General's Peace Building Fund and thank the chair of the group for his insightful briefing. Our appreciation for the permanent representative of Chad and ASG Sphere for their useful briefings. Mr. Chair, this year is an important year for UN's peace-building activities. For the first time, the assessed contribution has been introduced, which is a milestone for the fund. We also have the review of the peace-building architecture this year. Previously, the fund had uncertainties about the sources to implement its program smoothly. Now, with the introduction of the assessed contribution, the fund will be able to contribute in a more predictable way. However, we must not neglect the importance of the increasing the voluntary contribution, which still remains as the primary source of funding. Mr. Chair, we welcome the increase of the membership of the advisory group from 10 to 12, which is expected to bring greater value and guidance in decision-making process. In this regard, we want to highlight some few points. First, with the introduction of the assessed contribution, it is now more important to strengthen the relationship between the fund and the Peace Building Commission. The Commission needs regular update on the activities of the fund to provide action-oriented recommendations. We also reiterate our call to establish a regular channel to inform the outcome of the Commission meetings to the Fund Advisory Board. Secondly, to bring greater consistency to peace-building efforts, it is urgent to have stronger collaboration between the peacekeeping and peace-building constituencies. At the same time, when we are discussing about the future of peacekeeping, the Peace Building Commission may take into account the relevant outcome of the upcoming UN Peacekeeping Ministerial to strengthen the peace-building components of the peacekeeping operations. Thirdly, we emphasize the role of the national joint steering committees to advance the national peace-building priorities in line with the local needs for effective synchronization among the UN entities in the field. We commend the visit of the representatives of the Peace Building Commission to the countries receiving support of the fund. And finally, we look forward to the upcoming Peace Building Architecture Review, which will give us the opportunity to strengthen the Commission Fund relationship in order to respond to the emerging peace-building challenges. I thank you all.
I thank the permanent representative of Bangladesh for his statement. And I'll give the floor to the permanent representative of Sweden, followed by the permanent representative of Cambodia. Sweden, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me first congratulate all members, old and new, of the advisory group of the Peace Building Fund, and I'm especially happy to see Jonas Albert joining as a new member. I very much look forward to working with all of you during this very important year for UN peace building. And as It has long been clear that there's a gap in financing for peace building and sustaining peace, and we know that the costs of violent conflict are more than $14 trillion per year. We also know that for every $1 that we spend on peace building today, we save $16 by avoiding conflict-related costs in the future. This was the rationale between the intergovernmental negotiations on financing for peace building, which Kenya and Sweden co-facilitated in 2022 and which led to the adoption of GA Resolution 76/305. In the past 2 years, significant strides have been made to implement this resolution, most significantly through the GA decision on assessed contributions. With the new PBF terms of reference in place, we now look forward to following the implementation on the ground of the first PBF projects funded through assessed contributions. But looking back at the high ambitions set by Resolution 76/305 to provide adequate, predictable and sustained financing for peace building, we must also be honest and say that much work remains. The financing for peace building is still not adequate. Too often it's unpredictable and it's not always sustained. Going forward, we need to build a peace-building financing ecosystem that is diverse and resilient, with governments, civil society, investors, private sector actors, development finance institutions and other partners to increase the scale of financing, but also the quality and the flexibility. We also need to acknowledge the fact, when we look at post-conflict countries and situations, the role of education, both in economic development, but also as regards social stability. And I think we must always remember that fact when we look at peace building, and perhaps look at that particular aspect even more than we do today. So thank you.
I thank the permanent representative of Sweden for her statement. I now give the floor to the permanent representative of Cambodia, followed by the permanent representative of El Salvador. Cambodia, you have the floor.
Thank you. Distinguished Chair of the PBCs, at the outset, allow me to express Cambodia's profound gratitude to you, Mr. Chair, for convening today's critical meeting. It is a great honor for me to deliver our statement as a newly elected member of the PBC. I also would like to extend our congratulations to the member of the advisory group and commend it and take note of their insightful advisory opinions. On behalf of the Royal Government of Cambodia, I extended our heartfelt appreciation to all members for entrusting us with this significant responsibility. This trust underscores Cambodia's dedication to the principles of peace and stability, which have been the cornerstone of our national journey. Today, we reaffirmed our unwavering commitment to contributing meaningfully to the collective efforts of this esteemed body in promoting global peace and resilience. The Peace Building Commission and Peace Building Fund are indispensable pillars in addressing the root cause of the conflict, facilitating post-conflict recovery, and building sustainable, resilient societies. Cambodia believes that by harnessing our collective strength, exchanging best practices, and fostering innovative solutions, we can effectively address these challenges and lay the foundation of lasting peace. Cambodia's understanding of peace building is shaped by our own history and hard-earned peace. We recognize that today's peace-building landscapes is increasingly complex, with conflicts escalated by interconnected global challenges such as climate change, inequalities, and social fragmentations. In this context, Cambodia pledged to bring its unique perspective and experiences to the Commission's missions to addressing these multifaceted issues and advance the cause of peace. In our new role as a member of the PBC, Cambodia is eager to collaborate with following fellow members to strengthen the Commission's work. We are committed to sharing insights gained from our own peace-building journey and contributing our resources to bolster the Commission's effectiveness. Together, we can turn challenges into opportunities and build a more peaceful world for the future generations. Cambodia is committed to working hand in hand with the peace-building funds and the 8th Advisory Group to achieve our shared goals, including the ambitious visions outlined in the Pacts for the Futures and the new agenda for peace. We also look forward to actively contributing to 2025 peace-building architectures reviews. In conclusion, Cambodia stands ready to contribute actively and constructively to the work of the peace-building commissions. We are committed to upholding the principles of United Nations and to working in partnership with all the stakeholders to build peaceful, trust, and prosperous world. Let us seize this opportunity to reinforce the collective commitment to peace and building the future where every nation can have its stable and harmonious environment. I thank you all.
I thank the permanent representative of Cambodia for his remarks. And I'll give the floor to the permanent representative of El Salvador, followed by the permanent representative of Kenya. El Salvador, you have the floor.
Muchísimas gracias, señor presidente. En primer lugar, permítanme expresar nuestro agradecimiento por la organización de esta importante reunión y por brindar a El Salvador la oportunidad de participar. Esta discusión es para nosotros de mayor relevancia. Extendemos nuestro sincero agradecimiento a los oradores por sus presentaciones y también damos la bienvenida a los miembros del 8º Grupo Consultivo. Y como lo han señalado también otros estados que me precedieron, celebramos la decisión de ampliar el grupo consultivo, lo que permite una mayor inclusión y diversidad en su composición. Esperamos que en el futuro la región de América Latina y el Caribe esté aún más representada, reconociendo el valioso aporte que puede hacer nuestra región a los esfuerzos globales de consolidación de la paz. Por otra parte, subrayamos la importancia de fortalecer la relación entre el Fondo y la PBC, y este fortalecimiento debe basarse firmemente en el principio de apropiación nacional de los procesos de consolidación de la paz respaldados por el Fondo, así como en la naturaleza catalizadora y flexible del mismo, que han demostrado ser sin duda esenciales para su éxito. Creemos que también es fundamental que el Fondo continúe demostrando su impacto en el terreno de manera sistemática. Y estos esfuerzos serán cruciales a medida que el Fondo apoya también la implementación de las disposiciones del examen de la revisión de arquitectura y consolidación de la paz y también contribuya a la implementación de las disposiciones del Pacto para el Futuro. Nuestro país reconoce que las cuotas prorrateadas para el Fondo marcan un avance significativo hacia un sistema más equitativo y solidario, en el que el apoyo internacional se alinea con las prioridades nacionales y también los actores locales desempeñan un papel central en la consolidación y construcción de una paz sostenible. Pero sobre todo agradecemos a aquellos países donantes que han decidido y que van a mantener su valioso apoyo al Fondo, pues su contribución ha sido clave para consolidar este mecanismo como una herramienta ágil y efectiva. También nos complace el compromiso de PBSO para garantizar la transparencia en el manejo del Fondo y este es un aspecto que valoramos profundamente. En mi país, el Fondo ha apoyado nuestros esfuerzos de consolidación de la paz desde 2018. Solo algunas áreas que me permito destacar son movilidad humana, la justicia, la seguridad, la integridad pública, la participación ciudadana, la inclusión de las mujeres y los jóvenes y otros grupos. Y sin duda alguna para nosotros el Fondo va a ser importante involucrarnos activamente en los años venideros. Expresamos nuestro deseo de que la Comisión de Consolidación de la Paz continúe fortaleciendo el rol e impacto del fondo en los procesos globales. Y también, señor presidente, mi país reafirma su compromiso con los esfuerzos de esta comisión. Esperamos poder participar en las deliberaciones de este año, pero sobre todo desde el 2026, cuando, en caso de contar con el valioso apoyo de toda la membresía de la ONU, podamos tener nuestra membresía en esta comisión. Muchísimas gracias.
I thank the permanent representative of El Salvador and president of the Fifth Committee for her remarks. I now give the floor to the permanent representative of Kenya, followed by the permanent observer of the European Union. Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair of the PBC, for convening this meeting. I also like to thank all our briefers for their insights. Chair, let me begin by recognizing in a special way the Chair of the Peace Building Fund Advisory Group, my compatriot and predecessor as permanent representative of Kenya, Ambassador Macharia Kamau, whom we all hold in very high esteem as a senior colleague and a distinguished diplomat. Ambassador Kamau, just like his distinguished colleagues on the advisory group of the PBF, has contributed immensely to the work of the United Nations in many capacities, and in this current context to peace-building efforts, including as chair of the Peace-Building Commission in 2016. I congratulate you, Ambassador, on your appointment. Chair, Kenya appreciates the transparent and accountable manner in which the Peace-Building Fund is managed. We commend the work of the advisory group in this regard, particularly the oversight role that they play over the implementation of the fund's strategy, as well as the policies guiding fund investments. As we look to the future, the PBF and the PBC should enhance their cooperation and collaboration with an emphasis on the following areas, some of which have been alluded to by my colleagues, but I'll mention them anyway, if only for effect and emphasis. One, mobilization of voluntary contributions through innovative financing and partnerships, including with international financial institutions, as well as prioritizing multi-annual investments. Two, effective operationalization of the finance of peace-building resolution through the effective application of assessed contributions to the PBF as determined in Resolution 78/257. Three, placing greater focus on climate peace and security, as well as cross-border programming, in order to address the evolving nature of peace-building needs, especially in countries of the Global South. And finally, ensuring national ownership and leadership through inclusive participation, not only of national governments, but also critical players, including women and the young people. On the question of peace-positive private sector development that has been raised by the chair of the PBF, there is no doubt that there is enormous potential for private corporations and other actors who are not traditionally in the business of funding peace-building activities to do so. My South African and Swedish colleagues have already alluded to this. But Chair, just to say that it's important that a business case needs to be made, one that's founded upon research and backed by credible data on, for instance, the direct and indirect cost of conflict to business. And incentive and reward mechanism needs to be deployed on the benefits to private capital and philanthropic organizations of investing in peace building. And there are lessons to be learned in this regard, including from the climate action movement that has succeeded largely in attracting private sector investment or funding into climate adaptation and mitigation. This perhaps is one area where the Peace Building Fund can deploy some seed resources to commission an inquiry or find ways of implementing this. In conclusion, recognizing the vast experience of the distinguished members of the advisory group, some of whom I join my colleagues in welcoming back to New York, I appeal to them to freely share their experience, expertise, perspectives and insights as they already have, so that the forthcoming peace-building architecture review can benefit from those rich experiences. I thank you for your kind attention.
I thank the permanent representative of Kenya for his statement, and I'll give the floor to the permanent observer of the European Union, followed by the deputy permanent representative of the United Kingdom. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With the upcoming peace-building architecture review, 2025 will undoubtedly be a very intense and a very important year of collaboration among us for the greater good, refocusing our minds on one of the foundational priorities of the United Nations. Let me congratulate the new members of the PBF Advisory Group and the whole group for their work, and also, I'm sure on all of our behalf, Slovenia and Egypt on their appointment as co-facilitators for the PBAR. Now, like so many in this room, we very much welcome the exchange between the PBC and the PBF Advisory Group. And we also look forward to the interactive strategic dialogue of the PBC and the PBF. More interaction, without any doubt, between the Commission, the Fund, and the Advisory Group will allow for greater coherence in our priorities. Everyone has said this. We're also grateful for the briefing of the PR of Chad. Dear friends, this kind of exchange gives the PBC members a much better understanding of the impact of the PBF. We encourage more communication about the PBF and its activities, both here at the UN and with the representatives in country settings. And we fully agree. I agree with the Chair, Sergio's emphasis on the importance of ensuring that those countries participating in PBF programs prioritize presenting best practices here at the PBC. Now, let me outline quickly 3 priorities that we believe should be on the top of the Advisory Group's agenda. First, we have seen tremendous momentum for the peace-building and conflict prevention agenda in the past years. With conflict on the rise, there is also recognition that we must invest more in prevention and that this ambition should be universal. The demand for PBF funding is bigger than ever. New countries are reaching out to the PBC, and unfortunately, we are also experiencing a crisis in funding for peace building. So turning this situation around must be top of the Advisory Group's agenda. With the addition of the assessed contributions to PBF, now finally a reality, we should revisit the 2022 financing for peace building resolution to see how other sources of funding can also be increased. This includes strengthening the cooperation between the UN and the IFIs. Such cooperation could leverage the comparative advantage of the respective organizations. On the one hand, the large-scale funding of the IFIs, and on the other, the UN's great experience on peace building. Second, this is the moment to implement the Pact of the Future. The Pact for the Future encourages that all countries develop their nationally owned and led prevention strategies and approaches. While the ownership should always be national, the UN must be able to provide support. We believe the PBF should be one instrument through which to support national prevention strategies. However, again, this will require adequate resources, but it has to be politically prioritized. Absolutely has to be. Finally, please rest assured, dear colleagues, of the European Union's steadfast support for the Peace Building Fund. We are planning to contribute a multi-annual support at the same level of ambition as previously, contributing about €6 million for 2025-2026. In 2023, according to the PBF annual report, the EU and its member states delivered 58.2% of the total contributions. Our commitment is, of course, also at the political level, not just the financial level, and we are committed to engage actively in the peace-building architecture review. Thank you.
I thank the permanent observer of the European Union for his remarks. I now give the floor to the Deputy Permanent Representative of the United Kingdom, followed by the Deputy Permanent Representative of Egypt. UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to begin by joining others in welcoming the appointment of new members of the advisory group. And I'd like to extend a special welcome to Richard Atwood from the International Crisis Group. And I'd like to recognize just the diverse range of experience and expertise in the group and how much we really look forward to working with and hearing from the group in the years to come. I'd like to emphasize the UK's long-standing and continued support for the Peacebuilding Fund. Other colleagues have made comments in relation to synergies between the PBF and PBC. This is a relationship that could be further enhanced through sustained engagement between the two entities, an engagement that is focused and with clearly defined outcomes. As co-chair of the group of friends of the Peacebuilding Fund, the UK welcomes the PBSO's idea for an annual interactive dialogue between the PBC and PBF, and we stand ready to support where needed and where helpful. We welcome the focus that has been given to the importance of national prevention strategies in both the Pact for the Future and the Secretary-General's recent report on peacebuilding and sustaining peace. And we welcome the PBF's efforts to prioritize countries seeking support for their national prevention approaches. This constitutes a step in the right direction. We're interested in how we can draw out best practice in relation to national prevention strategies, and keen to see the PBF do more alongside civil society and local communities who are so important to building sustainable peace. And finally, I'd just like to come back to comments made by Ambassador Kamau at the start of this in relation to the PBF's work with international financial institutions. We absolutely agree that the PBF has an important niche in this space. And it's a sort of a collaboration that, from a UK perspective, we'd very much like to see continue. And we recognize in this regard the upcoming Financing for Development conference in Seville, which is so important to that collaboration between the UN and IFIs. I'd like to end there. Thank you very much.
I thank the Deputy Permanent Representative of the United Kingdom for her statement. And I'll give the floor to the Deputy Permanent Representative of Egypt, followed by the Deputy Permanent Representative of Norway. Egypt, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, we appreciate the informative remarks of the speakers and welcome their presence as well as that of the members of the PBF Advisory Group. Indeed, this is an important opportunity for exchange of views and consolidates the link between the work of the PBC and that of the PBF. As you mentioned, Mr. Chair, at the beginning, the expansion of the PBF Advisory Board is a positive development, and this indicates the relevance of the PBF and its role as part of the peacebuilding architecture. Mr. Chair, the predictable, sustainable, and flexible financing and funding of the PBF is a long-sought goal, and we are proud that the GA has ultimately been able to adopt its landmark Resolution 78/257 under Egypt's chairmanship of the Fifth Committee, allowing the PBF access to funding from UN-assessed contributions. Building on this positive development, allow me to highlight the following remarks to ensure our collective ability to maximize the impact of the PBF and its contribution to peacebuilding. First, increasing the visibility of the PBF and the impact of its work is key. The presence and briefing of Chad today is an example of how we can advance dialogue and knowledge sharing in this regard. In addition, regular meetings between the Commission and the PBF Advisory Group is required to enhance synergy and garner the necessary political support to the PBF activities. Second, ensuring the consolidation of the PBF's contribution to sustaining peace, given the long-term nature of its work along the peace continuum, from conflict prevention, transitioning towards sustainable development. Third, there is a need to focus on maximizing innovative sources of financing, especially through IFIs, and as has been mentioned, the PBF is well placed and positioned to be of great help because of its catalytic nature and success stories. Fourth, promoting the activity of the PBF and expanding its outreach is critical to encouraging increased donor contributions. Fifth, national ownership of the projects financed by the PBF is key to encouraging more countries to seek its support and benefit from those projects. Sixth, maximizing the impact of the PBF requires more system-wide synergies, primarily strengthening the role of the resident coordinators at country level to contribute to the accurate identification of projects in which the PBF can inject the necessary funding. Seventh, the need to avoid creating additional bureaucratic layers to the working mechanisms of the PBF is also crucial to ensure that it is agile and flexible in its work. And lastly, the need to ensure that our deliberations here feed into the upcoming PBAR process is also critical. Egypt is honored to have been chosen to serve with Slovenia as the co-facilitators of the review process, and as we are all cognizant that the PBF is one of the most important pillars of the UN peacebuilding architecture, therefore this must be reflected in this process. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank the Deputy Permanent Representative of Egypt for her remarks, and I'll give the floor to the Deputy Permanent Representative of Norway, followed by the Deputy Permanent Representative of Uganda. Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thanks for organizing and for convening this very important exchange between the PBC and the Advisory Board of PBF. Let me first extend a warm welcome to the incoming members of the 8th Advisory Group. Some of you new and some of you with previous or experience from previous compositions. And we also welcome the enlargement of the group to 12 members. Please be assured of Norway's support and also gratitude to your valuable guidance to the fund strategy and future direction. So we very much look forward to engage with you in a structural manner. Norway has been a consistent supporter of the fund since its inception, and we were honored to host the strategic dialogue between the PBSO and the fund's top 12 donors last summer, or the summer last year. And this second joint meeting between the Commission and the Advisory Group provides a really great opportunity to sit down with you and exchange views, as I said, but also to ensure that synergies are improved, or that we get more synergies between the PBC and the PBF, and to increase it. Very many good points have been shared and been expressed in this room, so I will try to not repeat them, but let me just highlight two main points or messages. First, generally related to finance, I would like to stress that we for sure welcome that the GA finally agreed to allocate $50 million from the CES contributions to the PBF annually. But at the same time, it's also clear that this is not sufficient, and that we remain in a position that we have to handle the uncertainty of ensuring both sustainable and predictable voluntary funding over the next years and the next decade. And as long as that remains the case, I think it's key that all of us are cognizant of some of the key assets in the nature on how the PBF has been conducted and how it's been the architecture behind it. And I think the combination of, as some colleagues already expressed, that the very high level or amount of inclusion through national ownership and also by civil society and women's groups, etc., are getting involved in how the fund is allocated in each and respective countries. But I think also the transparency on how the fund has been managed is also one of the key assets which we have a shared interest in maintaining. And let me also add there the flexibility and the discretion by the administrative authority in deciding how to spend in a smart manner the funds. And that discretion we also, as donors, I hope we have a shared interest in maintaining that. So to the advisory group, we really look forward to get your input, of course, and listening to you and your creative ideas in how we can mobilize further and trying to prevent and avoid a situation where this prolongs into uncertainty and that we are able to address the current needs that obviously exceeds the resources at the moment. Secondly, on the PBR, I think it's just important for us to stress that we are extremely committed in engaging on that, and we already have played an active role. And I think, as Manny also highlighted, the link to the Pact for the Future that was finally adopted last year, and to build on that in a structured manner, represent a very critical and very positive window of opportunity to look at the comprehensive nature and scope on funding to peace-building activity, but in a larger perspective, including the national ownership. So through the PBR, Norway is ready to provide concrete and also actionable proposals on strengthening not only the funding to peace building, but also the peace building architecture in itself, including synergies between the PBC and the fund. So let me just conclude to hope also that the advisory group will, that we will hear your voice and look forward to hear your input through that process as well. Thank you, Chair.
I thank the Deputy Permanent Representative of Norway for his statement. And I'll give the floor to the Deputy Permanent Representative of Uganda, followed by the Deputy Permanent Representative of France. Uganda, you have the floor.
Allow me, Chair, to thank you for convening this important meeting of the 8th Advisory Group of the Peace Building Fund. We commend Brazil for the stewardship of the Peacekeeping Commission, and Uganda will offer full support. As incoming member of the Peace Building Commission, Uganda looks forward to contributing and engaging actively with the members of the Peace Building Commission during our tenure in the PBC. We welcome this meeting as an important opportunity to engage with the members of the advisory group, and my delegation assures you of our support in all efforts to implement strategies for the Peace Building Fund. I commend the Peace Building Fund for advancing peace building efforts in post-conflict situations through the provision of funding for early warning, early response mechanisms, and conflict prevention support and development. Over the years, the PBC programs have helped countries emerging from conflict to rebuild institutions, restore the rule of law, promote reconciliation, address the root causes of conflict. The core of the PBF lies on the ability of the Peacekeeping Commission to fully utilize the fund and build meaningful strategies for peace building, peace sustainability, human security, and sustainable development of the conflict-affected areas. In this regard, there should be genuine and impartial collaboration among the principal organs and entities of the United Nations, namely the Security Council, the General Assembly, and ECOSOC, to oversee overtures for peace building, sustaining peace, and sustainable development. The alignment of the work of the PBC and PBF should contribute to building partnerships necessary to address current and emerging issues of concern in fragile countries and regions. My delegation would like to highlight the need for the PBC to hold regular meetings such as this one with all relevant actors, including the World Bank, UN funds and programs, African Union, UNOSSC, regional and sub-regional organizations, national actors, local communities, on cross-cutting issues of peace, security, human rights, and development. The Pact of the Future was adopted by world leaders to reinvigorate global action to ensure the future we want and to effectively respond to current and future challenges in partnership with all relevant stakeholders. Therefore, Uganda looks forward to the implementation of the commitments in the Pact regarding the strengthening of the Peace Building Fund with a responsibility to support the prevention of man-made conflicts and building peace in communities, countries, and regions as a contribution to the maintenance of international peace and security. We also welcome the review of the 2025 review of the peace building architecture and the decision to establish improved strategic partnerships between the Commission and international regional organizations, including international financial institutions, like has been already said. The PBF can play a role in the implementation of peace-building architecture by providing innovative advice on possible partnerships with these institutions, financial institutions, for investment in long-term sustainable peace-building initiatives. For effective prevention strategies, it is important that all countries in conflict and post-conflict peace building should have equal opportunity to obtain support from the Peace Building Fund through a transparent and equitable process. Uganda supports inclusive, transparent consultations with beneficiary countries rather than subjectively identifying and setting priorities for them. In conclusion, Uganda pledges full support to the 8th Advisory Group of the PBF in its efforts to identify more innovative ways to support the implementation of the Peace Building Fund Strategy 2020-2026, including on resource mobilization and outreach strategies. I thank you, Chair.
I thank the Deputy Permanent Representative of Uganda for his statement, and I'll give the floor to the Deputy Permanent Representative of France, followed by the Deputy Permanent Representative of the Republic of Korea. France, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Tout d'abord, permettez-moi aussi de vous remercier pour cette opportunité d'échanger avec le groupe consultatif. Je voudrais saluer également la présence parmi nous du Président Kamau et féliciter les nouveaux membres, donc les 12 membres maintenant du groupe consultatif. Et saluer la présence aussi parmi nous de l'ambassadeur du Tchad, l'ambassadeur Abakar. Tout d'abord, je voudrais rappeler que la France soutient pleinement l'action du Fonds de consolidation de la paix, qui constitue un outil essentiel pour prévenir les conflits et favoriser des solutions de long terme. Le Fonds occupe un rôle particulier pour catalyser les financements, soutenir une réponse intégrée des Nations Unies et travailler avec l'ensemble des acteurs de terrain. Il est important qu'il continue à contribuer à la pleine mise en œuvre des objectifs de développement durable, ainsi que des agendas femmes, paix et sécurité et jeunes, paix et sécurité. Je voudrais ajouter aussi qu'il est important, ça a été dit par certains intervenants auparavant, qu'ils prennent en compte le pacte pour l'avenir qui a été adopté par consensus en septembre dernier. Il est important aussi que l'articulation soit bien faite avec notamment les agents des Nations Unies sur le terrain pour la continuité de l'action, évidemment en lien avec les besoins exprimés par les États. De nombreuses interventions auparavant ont souligné la nécessité d'assurer un financement durable de la consolidation de la paix. Je crois que c'est un sujet extrêmement important. À cet égard, donc, nous ne pouvons que nous féliciter de la décision de financer sur contribution obligatoire une partie du Fonds de consolidation de la paix à compter de cette année. Il est important d'assurer la pleine mise en œuvre de cette étape importante dans le respect de l'agilité et de la flexibilité du Fonds. Je voudrais rajouter que nous avons pleinement confiance dans la capacité du Fonds à sélectionner les projets les plus pertinents, notamment pour favoriser les transitions ordonnées et créer les conditions d'une paix durable. La question de l'agilité du Fonds à répondre en utilisant notamment ce financement est important. Tel a été le cas par exemple de l'action du Fonds en RDC, où le Fonds contribue utilement au plan de transition au Sud Kivu après le retrait de la MONUSCO de cette province. Articulation également de ce que l'on peut faire avec l'action du Conseil de sécurité. L'intervention de l'ambassadeur du Tchad tout à l'heure nous a montré aussi notre retour d'expérience, et je voudrais souligner à nouveau, comme ça a été dit par d'autres intervenants, l'intérêt de ces retours d'expérience pour le travail de la Commission de consolidation de la paix. Mais comme ça a été dit, ces contributions obligatoires ne suffisent pas. Elles sont évidemment complémentaires des contributions volontaires qui sont apportées par un certain nombre d'États. À cet égard, le représentant de l'Union européenne l'a dit tout à l'heure, près de 60% des contributions volontaires sont assumées par l'Union européenne et les États membres. Si nous avons bien compté, plus de 90% des financements de ce fonds le sont par les 12 principaux contributeurs. Donc la première mesure, évidemment, c'est d'élargir le nombre de contributeurs. Mais il faut aller au-delà de cela, et c'est pour ça que nous sommes pleinement déterminés à continuer à participer activement aux discussions sur la révision de l'architecture de consolidation de la paix, notamment en ce qui concerne la question du financement du Fonds de consolidation de la paix. À cet égard, la coopération avec les institutions financières internationales ou les financements innovants via le secteur privé sont des sujets qui devront être abordés. Enfin, je voudrais saluer les efforts entrepris en direction de l'analyse d'impact afin de faire en sorte que le fonds soit toujours plus efficace et puisse rendre compte, encore une fois, de manière appropriée. Je vous remercie.
I thank the Deputy Permanent Representative of France for his statement. I now give the floor to the Deputy Permanent Representative of the Republic of Korea, followed by the Deputy Permanent Representative of the United States of America. Korea, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to first extend a warm welcome to all members of the advisory group and express my gratitude to the advisory group chair, the permanent representative of Chad, and Assistant Secretary General Speer for their comprehensive briefings. Today's meeting takes place at a pivotal moment. The Peacebuilding Architecture Review is an opportunity to translate our renewed commitment to sustaining peace forged at the Summit of the Future into more concrete actions. In addition, with the introduction of the assessed contributions, it is timely to discuss how to maximize funds' impact and enhance its synergies with other peace-building efforts. In this regard, I'd like to highlight 3 points. First, it is crucial to continue efforts to enhance synergies between the PBC and PBF. Examples of such synergies include the case of Sancto Principe, where peace-building challenges were brought to the PBC for discussions leading to PBF support. Conversely, insights derived from PBF project should be shared with the PBC to enable experience-based and data-driven discussions. Second, the 3 priority areas of the current PBF strategy remain highly relevant, and we support its extension. In particular, with the several peace operations undergoing or preparing for withdrawal, there is a growing call for the PBC to engage more actively and earlier in transition process. It is essential not only to prioritize assisting transitions, but also to draw lessons from the past PBF project that supported the countries during and after transitions. We therefore expect the advisory group to provide insights into the PBC's role in transitions and its recommendations on leveraging the Impact Hub to deepen our understanding of effective peace-building support. Finally, despite the introduction of assessed contributions, voluntary contributions remain the primary source of the funding. Considering the growing demand for support, we need to increase the fund's resources. This includes expanding donor bases, exploring innovative financing methods, and working more strategically with the international financial institutions. The advisory group's role in providing strategic guidance is vital to these endeavors. As a staunch supporter of the PBF, Republic of Korea remains committed to continuing its contribution to the fund and enhancing the fund's impact. I thank you.
I thank the Deputy Permanent Representative of the Republic of Korea for his statement. I now give the floor to the Deputy Permanent Representative of the United States, followed by the Deputy Permanent Representative of Denmark. U.S., you have the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador Dinese, for your leadership and for convening today's meeting. The United States would also like to thank Ambassador Kamau, Chair of the Peacebuilding Fund Advisory Group, and the 2 contributors from the advisory group, as well as Assistant Secretary General for Peacebuilding Support, Elizabeth Spihar, for their presentations. We would also like to thank the Ambassador of Chad for his briefing. The insights shared and lessons learned from experiences in Chad are valuable to other PBF recipient countries, as well as to the Commission's work writ large. Colleagues, understanding how the PBF affects peacebuilding efforts will help inform member states' approach to this year's Peacebuilding Architecture Review, including resourcing and financing. As experience has demonstrated, modest investments can yield and have yielded transformational impacts in supporting post-conflict environments. Yet peace-building efforts need more predictable and increased investments. We are pleased the General Assembly approved assessed contributions for the PBF of $50 million annually for a more predictable baseline of resources, which will allow the PBF to do its vital work. The assessed contributions are a start, but they are not sufficient for the tremendous needs that exist around the world. Thus, voluntary contributions to the PBF remain essential. The Secretary General's updated terms of reference for the Peacebuilding Fund preserves the flexibility and adaptability needed for the fund to deliver, while ensuring that member states have the requisite level of oversight. We further welcome the Peacebuilding Support Office's efforts to highlight specific results through enhanced monitoring, particularly in individual country settings. These measures aid in retaining member state support and investment. In addition, the Pact for the Future calls for the establishment of more systematic and strategic partnerships between the Commission and stakeholders, including international financial institutions. These efforts by the PBF and new partnerships can help mobilize financing for sustaining peace and help to align national development, peace-building, and prevention approaches. Additionally, and consistent with General Assembly Resolution 76/305 on financing for peacebuilding, the United States supports more coordination across peacebuilding, development, and humanitarian efforts. For example, the UN World Bank Humanitarian Development, Peacebuilding, and Partnership Facility can further drive coherence and positively affect peacebuilding efforts between these organizations. We encourage further partnerships like this. In closing, the United States will continue to support UN peacebuilding efforts, including through the Peacebuilding Fund. We encourage others to take concrete steps to support and resource this vital work. Thank you.
I thank the Deputy Permanent Representative of the United States for his remarks, and I'll give the floor to the Deputy Permanent Representative of Denmark, followed by the representative of the Russian Federation. Denmark, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to advisory group members and colleagues. Thank you, Chair, for giving us the opportunity to speak today. It's really good to be back during this important interaction with the advisory group. Denmark sees the Peacebuilding Fund as an important, agile, and risk-tolerant mechanism of the Secretary General that has national ownership at its very core. As one of the major donor partners to the fund, Denmark commends the results achieved through PBF investments. The total support from Denmark amounts to close to $90 million, and of this, more than $60 million in the period 2020 to 26. Today, I want to raise 3 points. First, the synergies between the Peacebuilding Commission and the Peacebuilding Fund, important for an effective peacebuilding architecture. Entry points for synergies include the Commission's engagement with countries benefiting from the fund and a more systematic utilization of lessons learned from the PBF projects in member state deliberations, such as PBC advisors. It also relates to the continued need to ensure adequate, predictable, and sustained financing for peacebuilding, mentioned by so many colleagues today. Second, the Peacebuilding Fund is an essential mechanism for follow-up to the Pact for the Future and for the PBAR, the Peacebuilding Architecture Review. It provides important support for national peacebuilding priorities. It also provides an opportunity for integration of efforts between UN entities and with partners such as IFIs and civil society organizations. We hope that the advisory group will continue to focus on impact and innovation in its work. It is important that the fund continues to deliver in high-risk areas, transition contexts, and also across borders. It will be important to maintain the support for gender-responsive peacebuilding and climate-sensitive peacebuilding, as well as to increase support for localization and civil society organizations. Final point, the Peacebuilding Fund and the Commission are well positioned to support national prevention strategies. They already do this, and they can be better and further leveraged. As for national prevention strategies, it is key to consider building on peace infrastructures that are already in place and fostering an inclusive participatory process for their designs. To conclude, the PPC provides an important mechanism for investing in peace. At a time of increase in violent conflicts and increase in the demand for UN support for peace building, we must continue to invest in peace. Thank you.
I thank the Deputy Permanent Representative of Denmark for his remarks, and I'll give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation, followed by the representative of Algeria. Russia, you have the floor.
Господин председатель, благодарим за проведение сегодняшнего мероприятия. Признательны всем докладчикам за представленные оценки и поздравляем всех новых членов 8-й консультативной группы с назначением. Вот уже почти 2 десятилетия Фонд миростроительства является надежным инструментом своевременного и адресного финансирования проектов, направленных на поддержку национального примирения, стимулирование политического диалога, работу с коренными причинами конфликтов, реализацию программ в социальной сфере и укрепление государственных институтов. Важно, чтобы любая международная поддержка по линии фонда оказывалась в полном соответствии с национальными стратегиями и приоритетами. Отмечаем вступление в силу с января этого года положения резолюции Генассамблеи 78-257 о выделении средств из бюджета ООН в ФМС. Это решение позволит повысить адекватность, предсказуемость и устойчивость финансирования миростроительной деятельности. Принципиально важно, что распределение этих ресурсов подконтрольно государствам-членам. Господин председатель, поддерживаем продолжение усилий Фонда по укреплению взаимодействия с Комиссией по миростроительству, в том числе посредством организации встреч с консультативной группой ФМС. Убеждены, что повышение уровня координации и взаимодополняемости действий Комиссии и Фонда будет способствовать более эффективной реализации миростроительного содействия и придаст деятельности ФМС более прозрачный характер. Транспарентность и подотчетность в использовании денежных средств – необходимые условия для привлечения дополнительных донорских средств. Это позволит фонду успешно продолжать оказывать поддержку государствам в наращивании собственного потенциала, чтобы в дальнейшем они могли обходиться без международного содействия и иметь возможность самим помогать тем, кто в этом нуждается. Обращаясь к уважаемым представителям 8-й консультативной группы Фонда по миростроительству, хотела бы задать 2 вопроса. С учетом взаимного стремления к укреплению взаимодействия между комиссией и фондом, какой опыт КМС может быть полезен в работе консультативной группы? И второе, какие наработки 7-й консультативной группы в сфере привлечения инновационного финансирования и укрепления сотрудничества с международными финансовыми институтами вы планируете использовать в своей дальнейшей работе, и есть ли у вас новые предложения? Благодарю за внимание.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for her remarks, and I'll give the floor to the representative of Algeria, followed by the representative of China. Algeria, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for convening this meeting, the second of its kind. Welcome to the new PBC members. Engagement between the PBC and the PBF advisory group is crucial. Thanks to all distinguished briefers. To Ambassador Kamau, it's always a pleasure to see you back on the crime scene. I think you have done so many great things under the roof of this building, including when you were chair of the PBC. I would like to congratulate the new members of the advisory group and also thank and commend the members of the previous advisory group for all their work. I'd like to make 2 points. First, few comments on the revision of the PBF terms of reference. The review of the TURs that took place last year was critical because it was the first ever since the adoption of these terms about 15 years ago. The review not only took on board the issue of assessed funding, but also other developments relevant to the PBF, like the Sustaining Peace Twin Resolutions. $50 million annually in assessed contributions to the PBF may seem modest compared to the level of voluntary contributions, but it could still potentially save us hundreds of millions of dollars each year in the cost of conflicts. Turning to my second point, we need to strengthen the relationship between the PBC and the PBF. Meetings like today contribute to enhance this relationship. This is critical for enhancing the effectiveness of the UN peace-building architecture and to help, in particular, closing the funding gap. As highlighted in the report of the Secretary General ahead of the PBAR, published on December 27th last year, the PBF continues to receive more demand than it can support. Almost 5 years into the current PBF strategy period, voluntary commitments have reached only slightly over half of the targeted amount of $1.5 billion. My delegation would like to suggest 2 areas where we could strengthen further the relationship. First, improved communication and information sharing. This could be done through establishing formal and informal channels for regular communication and information exchange between the PBC and the PBF. This could include joint meetings like today, workshops, and information sharing sessions. And here we appreciate that DPPA will increase its briefings on the performance of the PBF for the PBC. Such briefings, including with the advisory group, will certainly provide for greater transparency and oversight by member states, while of course keeping the flexibility of the fund. In addition, the annual interactive strategic dialogue proposed by the Secretary General would certainly enable the provision of forward-looking advice on priorities and the use of assessed contributions. Before concluding, we congratulate Egypt and Slovenia for their appointment earlier this week as co-facilitator of the formal phase of the PBAR. In conclusion, Mr. Chair, I would like to express the support of my delegation to the work of the 8th Advisory Group, and we look forward to its guidance to the fund's strategy extension through 2026. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Algeria for his remarks. I now give the floor to the representative of China, followed by the representative of Germany. China, you have the floor.
主席先生，我感谢你主持召开本次会议，感谢巴西作为建和委主席为加强建和委与建和基金互动所做出的努力，我感谢斯佩哈秘书长和卡马乌大使所做的通报，也感谢乍得常驻代表穆赫塔尔大使代表建和基金受援国所做的发言，我也愿欢迎各位加入建和基金咨询小组的新成员。建和基金为有关国家巩固持久和平发挥了积极作用，中方支持基金继续坚持当事国主导原则，在与当事国充分协商的基础上，为当事国自主确定的优先事项提供支持。我们期待各方共同努力，以落实联大第78257号决议和重审建和架构为契机，推动建和基金更加充分地发挥作用。我简要谈以下4点：第一，要维护好传统的共资渠道，拓展创新性融资。联大78257号决议重申，自愿捐款仍然是建和基金的主要共资渠道。我们欢迎有关国家的长期投入。当然，也正如卡马乌大使和很多代表刚才所说，我们期待传统捐资方继续承担好建和融资的首要责任。同时，创新性融资是建和融资的另一个重要渠道。我们期待秘书处能在发掘创新融资渠道方面取得更多实质性进展。第二，要加强对使用摊款的监管。中方欢迎主席关于邀请受援国来建和委通报的提议，这对增进建和委对建和基金的了解很有帮助。 同时，我们也认为对基金效果的关注和对摊款使用合规性的关注是同等重要的。相关款项的使用应当严格按照联合国财务管理规定进行管理、使用、监督和审计，保障会员国的权利和义务得到有效落实。这与维持基金的灵活性是不矛盾的。第三，要加强统筹协调。基金要继续加强内部统筹，让不同共资渠道获得的资金形成合力，推动建和基金的各项优先领域均衡发展，特别是在重建基础服务和促进和平红利这两方面的比重应该进一步增大。同时，基金也要加强外部协调，推动不同主体之间形成合力，避免资源的重复投入。我们也期待基金做出更大努力，让更多冲突地区的当事国获得基金的支持。第四，要切实提升建和基金的绩效，能否有效发挥催化作用，是衡量建和基金实效的一项重要标准。希望基金能在有效提升项目的催化作用，特别是财政的催化作用方面取得实质性进展。我们也期待基金进一步探索完善现有的绩效评估体系，包括但不限于反映不同项目之间的协同增效情况。主席先生，中方愿同各方一道，根据联大第7857号决议的要求，充分发挥建和委在政策指导、咨询和监督方面的作用，推动建和委与基金咨询小组加强经常性的对话沟通，共同推动建和基金为落实未来契约做出应有的贡献。谢谢主席。
I thank the representative of China for his remarks. I now give the floor to the representative of Germany, followed by the representative of Pakistan. Germany, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair, for convening this meeting and giving me the floor. We would like to thank the members of the advisory group for taking the time to meet us. We greatly appreciate this timely opportunity to discuss synergies between the PBC and the PBF, especially with a view to the upcoming use of assessed funding to the PBF. With a view to the time, I would like to focus on a couple of areas where we feel that advice from the group would be particularly helpful. With regard to synergies between the PBC and the PBF, we would welcome reflections on the PBC's advisory function vis-à-vis the PBF, particularly taking into account that not all countries that receive PBF funding are on the agenda of the PBC. So how can the PBC play a meaningful role with regard to strategy and policy development for the PBF, and what kind of input from member states would be most useful to strengthen the relationship between PBC and PBF? We believe that advice on fostering national prevention strategies should be another priority, and would welcome practical proposals on how to better support countries that want to develop and implement their own strategies. We would welcome advice from the group on next steps that need to be taken, and would also appreciate guidance on how to establish a closer cooperation of PBC and PBF in that regard. And lastly, we would like to stress the importance of peace-building impact to ensure that effective and targeted support that goes hand in hand with programmatic implementation on the ground. While PBSO has already started to build specific expertise in that regard with the Peace-Building Impact Hub, we would like to see a stronger focus on impact both in the work of the PBC as well as in the programming of the PBF. We would appreciate advice from the group in that regard, especially also with a view to the upcoming PBAR. We very much look forward to working closely with all of you throughout the next year and wish you the best of luck for your important work. We stand ready to support your work whenever needed and will continue our support for the work to the PBF as well. I thank you very much.
I thank the representative of Germany for her remarks, and I'll give the floor to the representative of Pakistan, followed by the representative of India. Pakistan, you have the floor.
Chair, we thank you for convening today's meeting. We thank the briefers for their insightful remarks. Pakistan congratulates the 7 newly appointed members of the advisory group of Secretary General's Peace Building Fund. We assure Ambassador Kamal of our full support for his chairmanship. Chair, Pakistan is a founding member of Peace Building Commission. We are happy to be elected again. As founding member, we see positively the enlarged geographical and policy role assumed by the Peacebuilding Commission. We welcome this second dialogue with the advisory group in this regard. We support the active engagement of Peacebuilding Commission with the Peacebuilding Fund advisory group. We consider that peacebuilding architecture as a continuum and hope that comprehensive peacebuilding architecture review in 2025 will strengthen this peace continuum from conflict prevention to conflict resolution, peacekeeping, and sustaining peace. Peacekeeping and peacebuilding are mutually supportive, and this relationship should be strengthened. Pakistan, as a troop contributing country, for 6 decades has observed firsthand how the UN peacebuilding architecture can act as a catalyst to mitigate violence and restore stability. Pakistani troops have often mobilized their own resources to complement peacekeeping efforts with peacebuilding initiatives. Chair, we believe in preserving the national ownership as the guiding principle for peacebuilding architecture. This is the key to achieving optimum and sustainable impact of PBC's work. While we appreciate the 50 million from the assessed contribution, we believe the financing for peacebuilding needs to explore new avenues for the funding in addition to the traditional funding mechanisms. We have following comments on the guiding questions circulated. The PBC could promote engagements through robust advocacy and by leveraging its bridging role between the Peacebuilding Fund and with UN organs, international financial architecture, and private sector. It will help to convert small-scale catalytic projects of the Peacebuilding Fund into long-term, sustainable projects of peace and recovery. Programmatic funding in peacekeeping budget could develop synergies with the Peacebuilding Fund. This will allow to initiate the peacebuilding activities early in the life of peacekeeping mission and promote greater linkages between peacekeeping and peacebuilding initiatives. This will have the first mover's advantage and catalytic impact of the Peacebuilding Fund's investments. Peacebuilding Fund should be invested in a focused way on national priorities. Instead of selecting a large number of countries for disbursing small amounts, we believe fewer countries may be selected for maximum impact. We appreciate and encourage Peacebuilding Fund's growing focus on conflict prevention. Effective prevention requires a whole of UN approach involving conflict-sensitive UN country programs, strategies, and projects. It should continue. Chair, in conclusion, building peace is hard work. Sustaining it is often still harder. Lasting peace cannot be imposed from outside. It has to be built from within. We hope the advisory group will keep this important principle in consideration in performance of its mandates. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Pakistan for his remarks. I now give the floor to the representative of India. India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We thank the Peacebuilding Commission for organizing today's meeting and welcome the incoming advisory group. We also thank the distinguished speakers for their detailed briefings. I would like to make the following points. We note the expansion in the number of vice chairs from 2 to 4. We are hopeful that this would result in greater impact in delivering the Commission's core mandate as contained in the General Assembly Resolution 60/180 and Security Council Resolution 1645/2005. We underline that national ownership and consensus-based decision-making are the core principles of the Commission. We are confident that the sanctity of these core principles would be upheld in the functioning of the Commission, as also form a key pillar of the peacebuilding architecture review. We have always been vocal about encouraging greater transparency, oversights, and accountability in the identification and implementation of projects funded from the Peacebuilding Fund. We would like to reiterate the centrality of these aspects in project executions. I thank you, Chair.
I thank the representative of India for his remarks. There are no more speakers on my list. I thank all the member states for their participation and contribution. I now ask the chair of the advisory group to share his closing remarks. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Ambassador, let me first of all begin by thanking you for your leadership and for your patience in being with us here this afternoon, and for the convening of this seating, which has allowed us to hear a very broad range of comments from a wide range of member states who are clearly very keen and very interested in the work that we are all doing together. There is really not much more for me to say, but to thank you, to thank all the member states. It's not every day, those of us who've been in this business a little while, that you get such a full house with this level of representation at ambassadorial and DPR level and delegate level. So we recognize that there is a keen interest in the work that we're doing together with you. We make our commitment to do whatever we can, especially to bring to the PBC, as and when you think it is suitable, countries that we think are doing great work, or countries that are suffering in any special way or having any great challenge that we think that their presence here would really help them mitigate that challenge and that suffering. Would like to thank the representative PR of Chad. We appreciate your participation today, Ambassador, and for giving highlight to the work that PBF is doing with Chad. We remain committed to the transition in your country, and we working with the PBC and with the larger UN system have nothing but goodwill for the Republic of Chad and for the success of your country. On behalf of my sage and wise advisory group, let me say once again, thank you very much. We have appreciated everything you've had to say. We'll take it up. We'll find ways to make sure that when we meet again, and we hope it will be soon, that we shall be able to not only give answers to what you have requested of us, but that we shall find better ways to execute on the challenge of peace building that we all face collectively. Thank you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Kamau. I now ask whether ASG Specher would like to share some close comments before the session adjournment. Elizabeth?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all of the participants today. I do agree with our distinguished advisory group chair that it's been a very rich session. I just wanted to mention a few things. First of all, I wanted to very sincerely thank all of you for the very clear and strong show of support for the work of the Peacebuilding Fund. Without your support, this would not be the effective fund that it is. So deeply grateful for all of your expressions of support, including those several countries who also announced additional voluntary contributions to the fund in the coming period. Secondly, we've been very encouraged by hearing the strong interest. I think there was not a participant today who didn't mention it. The strong interest in much closer and better synergies between the Peacebuilding Commission and the work of the PBF. And we certainly have a great interest in that as well. And so I can tell you that, as Ambassador Kamau said, certainly the advisory group will be thinking a lot about what you have said and your very good suggestions and ideas. They have a full second day of work together tomorrow, so I'm sure what they've heard today will take up a lot of their discussions in the course of tomorrow. But also as Secretariat, I want to really underscore our commitment to those stronger synergies between the Peacebuilding Support Office, which manages the fund on the Secretary General's behalf, and yourselves as the Peacebuilding Commission, and including, as was mentioned by several of you, not just the direct supporters of the fund, but also the recipients of the fund. And again, so delighted to have Ambassador Mukhtar with us here today to share the experience of Chad. In that respect about closer synergies, I also appreciated very much that a number of you mentioned the suggestion of the Secretariat to have an annual strategic interactive dialogue between ourselves and the Peacebuilding Commission. The idea being to have it also with a forward-looking perspective so that we can benefit from your strategic advice and ideas, particularly as we look to future allocations and especially the assessed allocations. And so we do hope to program such an interactive dialogue with you very soon, and I assume we will pick that up given the lateness of, or how late we are into January. I'm assuming we will pick that up as one of the first priorities with the new chair that should be in place in early February. Then finally, I just wanted to say that in terms of the questions of the representative of the Russian Federation, in terms of the experience of the PBC that could be useful for the PBF, we find the exchanges here extremely useful, and I think a number of you have underscored how important the work on best practices, the exchange of experiences of countries who have had different peace-building challenges, how valuable that is for other countries. It's also valuable for us, and it's been very valuable to hear what the peace-building priorities of different countries are, who may perhaps not have yet come to the fund, but might come to the fund. So I think there are mutual benefits, again, from strengthening this relationship. And in terms of the UNIFI's relationship and how we can further strengthen that, we do a lot of thinking and work on that at PBSO, and I have seen that the advisory group is also quite keen on this issue, and I think we can really build more on this in the coming months and years, not least focusing more on regional development banks and their role in supporting the building and sustaining of peace and supporting prevention, as a number of them have just gotten some quite significant financial replenishments. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for your remarks. As we conclude this meeting, I want to once again express our deep appreciation to Ambassador Kamau, Ambassador Mukhtar, the whole group of advisory group members, and ASG Spehar for their enlightening statements, and for all members, especially those that expressed their views on this important topic for the UN peacebuilding architecture. Your thoughtful contributions to today's discussion have enhanced our understanding of how to strengthen the synergies between the PBC, which is a political body, and the PBF, which is a financial tool, particularly as we embark on this historic first year of assessed contributions. Likewise, your perspectives on developing national prevention strategies and fostering greater collaboration across the peacebuilding architecture will be invaluable as we move forward together. The engagement demonstrated here today reinforces the importance of regular dialogue between our bodies. I am confident that this expanded advisory group will continue to provide essential guidance as we work to maximize the impact of our peacebuilding efforts. I extend my sincere thanks to the Peacebuilding Support Office team, my own team, to our interpreters, and all Secretariat staff who made this meeting possible and successful. The meeting is adjourned.